Imagine running for your life from a legendary monster in the dead of night.
Oh, terrifying.
Right. You're sprinting through the darkness, your heart is just hammering in your chest, and you are totally convinced that this terrifying beast hunting you is going to be your end.
Yeah, absolute panic.
Exactly. And then the moon comes out, the shadows shift a bit, and you realize the mythical terror is just a plump little opossum waddling across the road.
That is such a great visual.
It really is. So welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. If you've been digging into the stack of sources we've got today on the fantasy epic, A Stranger from a Faraway Land, you know that moment with young Alice perfectly captures a huge theme here.
It really does.
Yeah, it's this idea that sometimes the most dangerous storms we face are the illusions we build in our own heads. And today, we are opening up a really fascinating piece of world building from this text.
The Elven Glossary.
Yes, the Elven Glossary,
Yeah.
which is essentially a psychological decoder ring for understanding how individuals and communities manage to transform when they are hit by unprecedented chaotic forces.
It is a remarkable framework, honestly. And the goal for a deep dive today isn't just to revisit the intense battles or the haunted castles you might already know from the text.
Right, we wanted to go deeper than that.
Exactly. We want to explore the underlying mechanics of survival in this world. Like, how do these characters navigate literal tempests and metaphorical disasters?
Mm.
By running their actions through this elven vocabulary, we start to uncover the why behind their resilience.
Which is so crucial. So here is the roadmap for you today. We are looking at the foundational truths they have to accept, how they build unbreakable bonds in the middle of a disaster, the ways they're forced to completely rewrite the rules of combat, and ultimately, how they forge beauty out of all that rubble.
Sounds like quite the journey.
It is.
Mhm.
So to figure out how communities survive the unimaginable, I mean, we have to start at the foundation, right? How we perceive our own environment.
Yeah, because before anyone in this world can fight a physical storm, they have to strip away their own delusions.
Right. And the sources introduce this concept through Shanche.
The mysterious foreign storyteller.
That's the one. He shows up at the Fortress of Eleanor, seeking these ancient records.
Yeah.
Now, when he gets there, Jaya, who is the keeper of the fortress, she is highly suspicious of him.
Naturally.
Yeah. But Shanche doesn't draw a weapon to prove his worth or anything like that. He tells a story. He tells this poetic tale called The Wax and the Wick.
It's a beautiful piece of the text.
It really is. It's told from the perspective of a candle that is just lamenting its existence. It's burning unevenly, melting into a puddle, and it feels like it's giving away its very essence to provide light for this haggard, grieving man.
The candle just feels completely used up.
Completely. But then it watches the man pull out a cherished letter, and as the man reads it by the candlelight and begins to weep, the candle suddenly realizes its sacrifice is the only thing allowing this broken person to connect with what he's lost.
It's a profound shift in perspective.
Yeah.
And Jaya is intrigued enough by this to let him in. She immediately takes him to hear a sage preach about the nature of truth itself.
Right, the lotus flower analogy.
Exactly. The sage uses a lotus flower. You look at a lotus and it possesses this undeniable, breathtaking beauty.
Sure.
But look at where it grows. Its roots are buried deep in these murky, muddy, stagnant depths.
Yeah, the mud is not pretty.
Right. And this brings us to the first critical Elven glossary term from the text, which is Nessenari,
That's Sonari.
or the lotus flame. It represents the transformative growth that can only occur when a person fearlessly embraces uncomfortable, ugly truths about their environment.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second.
Yeah.
Because I had to push back a little bit on the romanticization of that candle's sacrifice in Shanchai's story.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, if you look at this from a modern lens, that candle sounds exactly like a victim of corporate burnout.
Oh, that's a fair point.
Right. You are literally burning yourself at both ends, giving away your life force for someone else's bottom line, or in this case, someone else's reading light.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So doesn't Nessenare, this whole concept of embracing the murky truth, doesn't it mean acknowledging that sometimes being the sacrificial candle is actually a terrible deal, and you need to break out of that situation?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the sage's lesson actually validates your reading entirely.
What does?
Yeah. The sage explicitly teaches that these concepts are about tools, not temples.
Tools, not temples. I like that.
Right. Truth isn't about blind sacrifice or martyring yourself for a cause that simply drains you. Nessenare is the act of seeing the mud with absolute clarity.
Ah, okay.
If you are in a toxic environment, you have to acknowledge the reality of those murky depths. You don't pretend the mud is clean water. You see it for what it is so that you can make a conscious strategic choice about how and where you're going to bloom,
Wow, okay, that makes the connection to Alice so much stronger for me.
right?
Because think about Alice trapped in that oppressive orphanage. She is surrounded by the metaphorical mud.
Completely stuck.
Yeah. And initially, she is just paralyzed by the fear of the Dark Watchers that supposedly roam outside the walls.
Yeah.
But then she has this conversation with this stray cat named Leo.
Who is great, by the way.
So great. And Leo casually suggests she rename herself Wild Estrilda to find some internal grit. And suddenly, she sees the orphanage for the trap it actually is. She squeezes through the iron bars and escapes into the night.
And that leads right back to our opening scenario.
Exactly. Out in the dark, she braces for a monster, and it is just an opossum.
Which is the definition of Kalikali,
Palikali.
the ascending lantern. It is that piercing moment when the veil of fear and intimidation is completely shattered by reality.
Yeah, the fear was just a psychological prison.
Exactly. The monster was just wildlife. When Alice experiences Kalikali, she realizes the terror keeping her inside was an illusion constructed to maintain control over her.
That moment of clarity, where the illusions just get stripped away, it's happening on a deeply personal level for Alice. But the sources show us that same stripping away happening on a macro level too. Like when the literal storms start ravaging the kingdom.
Oh yeah, the weather gets intense.
When those massive unnatural tempests hit Lakeside and Greenvale, nobody has the luxury of pretending the monster is just an opossum. I mean, the roof is literally flying off the house.
Right. The physical devastation forces an immediate psychological reset.
Yeah.
The storms basically mandate that these characters abandon their superficial concerns and rely on raw, unfiltered human connection just to survive the night.
Just look at Jack during the hurricane. He braves howling winds and flying debris to rescue the Watson family from their burning, ruined home.
A huge risk.
Huge. He risks his life, gets them back to the safety of his own hearth, and once they're sitting by the fire, they completely ignore him. He feels entirely invisible in his own house.
Yeah, it's a tough moment.
And meanwhile, you have his sister Rose, who risks the exact same gale to check on their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Crandall. Rose is terrified the old woman is trapped. She kicks the door in, and Mrs. Crandall is perfectly fine, annoyed by the draft, and just knitting a scarf.
Just sitting there knitting.
It's hilarious.
Sure.
But then in Greenvale, there is Sophia. She's an apothecary clerk who spends her days yearning for grand adventures in glittering cities. But when the deluge hits, she runs out into the chaotic street to help Oliver, the local innkeeper.
Yes.
She helps him secure a violently wobbling ladder while he boards up windows.
And Sophia grabbing that ladder is the physical embodiment of Ramalady,
Ramalady.
the winged anchor. It is the unwavering solidarity of braving adverse conditions together. Notice that Ramalody isn't about being the lone hero. It is about structural support. Oliver literally can't protect the inn without someone anchoring him to the ground.
That structural support is fascinating when you compare it to Jack's situation. Let's look at Jack's emotional state before the storm even hit.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, if you recall the scene at the fish market, Jack was trying to woo Maria, the grieving widow.
Yeah.
And he is utilizing just spectacularly terrible nautical puns.
They are so painful to read.
So painful. But Maria deflects him with incredible grace. She doesn't crush his spirit or humiliate him. She playfully shoots him down while keeping his dignity totally intact.
The glossary defines her social intelligence there as Millimalda,
Millimalda.
the saffron veil. Because in a small, interconnected community, preserving the relationship, even while rejecting in advance, is a survival skill.
That makes sense.
You might need that clumsy fisherman to help pull you out of a flood the next week. Millimalda is the delicate art of maintaining the community fabric.
Which Jack clearly benefits from. Because during a subsequent flash flood, Jack finds himself in a high-adrenaline, life-or-death rescue, saving Sophia from being swept away.
Right.
But contrast the intensity of that rescue with another scene happening simultaneously. Mary and Emily quietly baking honey oat bread and caramel together in a safe kitchen.
It feels almost jarring, right?
It really does. But the glossary gives that baking a term too. Orameli.
The heart-woven basket?
Right. It's the mindful preparation of a gift to deepen bonds.
And the contrast there is deliberate. A community cannot survive purely on high adrenaline rescues.
No.
It needs Romaloidi, the winged anchor, holding the ladder in the storm, but it also needs Orameli, the quiet, mindful deepening of bonds that give people a reason to keep surviving in the first place.
So what does this all mean for Jack's character arc? I really have to question his motivations here.
Go on.
Well, the sources make a point of highlighting that before the storm, Jack was a terrible blacksmith and a really clumsy fisherman.
Yeah, he was struggling.
So is his heroism in the flood simply the action of an adrenaline junkie running away from his own lack of purpose? Like, he's like that friend who is terrible at his desk job, but amazing at organizing a group trip when everything goes wrong.
That is a highly relatable comparison, but the text frames this differently. The crisis strips away Jack's luxury of existential dread.
Oh, interesting.
When the floodwaters are rising, you just don't have time to sit around worrying if you are fulfilling your potential as a fisherman. The storms act as a crucible. They burn away his aimlessness. They guide him toward a grounded, authentic partnership with Sophia. The hurricane proves to Jack that purpose is very often found in the people we save, not the jobs we hold.
That's a great point. But the weather, unfortunately, is anything but natural.
No, it's not.
While the villagers are finding their purpose in the chaos, the sources reveal a terrifying reality.
Mm-hmm.
These storms are symptoms of a much darker metaphysical force brewing in the woods.
Right. The environment itself has been infected.
Yeah, and we see this realization through Maria. She crosses the treacherous Lake Luminaea and enters the western woods.
Mm-hmm.
And she is guided by the wisps, those mischievous glowing fairies who lead her to a massive ancient banyan tree that is visibly corrupted and just rotting from the inside out.
It's a really dark scene.
It is. And the wisps sing this scandalous song about a creature named Grumblewarble.
Grumble.
Yeah, he is a shape-shifting spy toad gathering intelligence for a sinister force known as Merkendoon. So the natural, healthy rhythm of the forest, what the Elven Glossary calls Yondalinde, the resonant grove, has been completely broken.
Because Yondalinde represents the harmony of an ecosystem. When Merkendoon arrives, the ecosystem falls out of sync.
Yeah.
The weather goes wild, the wildlife corrupts, and traditional defenses become utterly useless against an enemy that doesn't obey natural laws.
Right, the old rules don't apply.
Exactly. And King Haleg recognizes this breakdown. He sees that the old ways of warfare aren't working, so he creates an entirely new role, the Protector, and he awards this position to Eleanor.
Because she merges diplomatic wisdom with martial prowess.
Yes.
And Eleanor is a force to be reckoned with. We get this detail of her battle in the western woods against a goblin horde, but the text points out these aren't your typical chaotic goblins.
No, they are unnervingly organized.
Yes. They are armed with stolen steel, they are fighting in formations, and Eleanor ends up slaying their chieftain in a fierce, highly disciplined duel that really showcases her perfect mastery of traditional combat.
But at the exact same time...
Right, at the exact same time, you have Sir Edward fighting a band of trolls. Sir Edward is a noble knight, but he recalls a lesson from his mentor, Sir Lowe.
Such a good lesson.
It is. The lesson is, the greatest swordsman fears the worst, not the second best.
Because a fool is unpredictable.
Exactly. Sir Edward realizes his honor code is useless against a troll, so he abandons honorable chivalry entirely and literally scoops up a handful of gravel and throws it into the troll's eyes to win the fight.
Pure pragmatism.
Yeah. And we see the same pragmatism in Finn the blacksmith. Finn uses crushed green walnut husks, which the locals call fish dope, to stun fish in the river.
Right.
It's not the proper way to fish, but it puts food on the table when the village is starving. Survival requires abandoning the proper way of doing things.
It really does.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I was looking at a book mentioned in the text called Fighting is an Art.
Oh, yes.
It points out that chivalry didn't actually start as some lofty ethical code. It started as a financial transaction. It was just a way for knights to ransom each other instead of dying.
Right. It was practical for them.
So, I mean, if chivalry is just a set of agreed-upon rules, fighting those trolls, or the forces of Merkendoon, is like trying to play chess with a toddler who just eats the pieces.
Exactly.
The rules do not apply. So my question is, if the enemy doesn't care about the rules, isn't Eleanor's highly disciplined shield wall actually a massive vulnerability against a chaotic force like Merkendoon?
What's fascinating here is that the text is showing us the real-time evolution of warfare.
Okay.
You are absolutely right. Eleanor represents the absolute perfection of the old system.
Right.
But Sir Edward's gravel and Finn's walnut husks represent the necessary adaptation. To defeat Merkendoon, the kingdom cannot rely solely on a shield wall. They must blend Eleanor's flawless discipline with Edward's unpredictable pragmatism.
Wow. Okay, so it's that synthesis that allows them to survive the immediate threat.
Yes.
But surviving the monsters and weathering the storms is only half the battle. The Troy heart of these sources is about what is built, forged and healed in the aftermath of all that chaos.
Because the destruction clears the ground for a new type of creation.
Yeah, and the imagery used for this is incredibly tactile. We see Finn the blacksmith working in his forge. He is melting down impure raw iron ore. But to make it usable, he adds limestone to the crucible.
Right.
The limestone acts like a chemical salve. It draws out the dross, allowing Finn to skim the weakness off before he quenches the white-hot steel in water.
And the glossary calls this process Minyolomi, the
Minyolome.
Twilight Forge. It is transforming raw material through extreme conditions to create resilience. The extreme heat isn't just destructive, it is purifying.
Purifying, right.
Yeah.
And we see that physical forging mirroring emotional healing, too. Take King Helig. He is profoundly lonely because Queen Boudica is away. He ends up taking in Thimble, a little rabbit whose entire family was stolen by trappers. Their bond is an example of what the glossary calls Vanimalyar.
A patchwork loom.
Yeah, broken hearts weaving a new shared purpose. We also see it when Harper the Fairy composes a healing song just for Maria.
Because healing in this world requires active participation. It requires the heat of Minyolomi or the delicate weaving of Vanimalyar.
Which brings us back to Alice and Thimble. Alice is full of this unchanneled energy after her escape. She and Thimble sneak into the haunted Chatton Castle. They marvel at these statues facing the stairs, and then they accidentally wake up a terrifying club-wielding ogre.
It's a chaotic escape.
They only survive by plunging into a rushing river. And when Alice finally gets home, Mary obviously grounds her.
Naturally.
But Mary doesn't just punish the rebellion, she channels it. She teaches Alice how to plant a garden, using the Three Sisters method: corn, beans, and squash, which she learned from her elder cousin Beatrice.
And this transmission of knowledge is Lorelante.
Lor-
The drip leaf cascade. The passing down of botanical and generational wisdom.
Well, the mechanics of that Three Sisters method are deeply symbolic to me.
How so?
The corn provides the structure. The beans fix nitrogen and climb the corn. And the squash leaves protect the roots from the sun. That gardening technique feels like the perfect analogy for this entire deep dive.
I love that.
Think about it. Eleanor and King Helig are the strong corn stalks. Jack, Sophia, and Alice are the beans climbing and finding their way. And the magic, the wisps, Harper, Thimble, they're the broad squash leaves protecting the roots.
This raises an important question, though, and your analogy aligns perfectly with the text. Just as Finn's sword requires extreme heat and sudden cooling, that Minyolomi, the kingdom's ecosystem, requires both the devastating storms and the quiet tending of gardens to flourish.
The tempest and the tiller. That frames the struggle in such a profound way. Let's look back at the ground we've covered today. We've navigated unnatural tempests, unmasked spy toads in haunted woods, learned to throw gravel at trolls, and discovered how to forge broken pieces into a beautiful patchwork loom.
It's been a lot.
It has. So as you listen to this, think about your own life. When you face your personal storms, do you stick rigidly to your rules of chivalry, or do you adapt and find your Romaloity, your winged anchor in a friend? And are you willing to bloom in the mud like the lotus?
To leave you with a final lingering thought, let's look at a realization from Shanshe the storyteller's notes. He wrote, "The storms are as we are."
Oh.
If the environment reflects the collective soul, perhaps the dark force of Merkindune isn't an external invader at all. What if it is simply the manifestation of the kingdom's own unresolved grief, rigid traditions, and forgotten magic breaking under pressure?
That is an incredible paradigm shift. It means the monster is coming from inside the house. So if you look at the storms in your own life, ask yourself, what is this weather trying to wash away?